So the last episode, we built our oil tanker over here and we sent it towards the New World because we have to start transporting some oil immediately over to Roma. We do not have enough oil production on the island itself in order to sustain it. So where do we get our oil from? The New World. The New World is fantastic because it comes with so many additional oil deposits. You will be drowning in it, literally. So that's what we're going to work on today, and I'm going to show you how this is all set up, because it is very important to get it going from now. Your industry is going to need it. Trust me. Let's get on with today's episode, shall we? Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Anno 1800 Beginner's Guide series. As mentioned before, we are going to be talking about our oil routes today and optimizing the New World for oil and transportation over to the Old World. Before I start, if you guys are new here or if you're on the fence about joining the Discord, and also if you want to check in the Instagram, which is just normally some pictures, primarily the Discord though, please consider checking it out. It's in the description of this video. It's also on the main channel page. We'd definitely love to have you in there, as we'd like to start some more discussions and some more community-based events. So, what we have here is our second island that we set up initially, named Fenris. Yeah, I went ahead and changed the name because, quite frankly, I didn't like the name from before. And what I've done here is built a little settlement to the point of obreros. Now, the obreros don't have everything they require. They just have enough for them to actually upgrade from Honados to obreros, and that's what we like to see. You don't always have to give them everything they require. Just a decent chunk to actually have. Like in this case, we have 370 obreros here, and they are pretty happy on plus 23. That's pretty good island happiness. So, I want to start off by saying we have our oil tanker already here. We have the Memphis ready. And we already have pre-placed our oil refineries. Now, there are 4 of them. There are 2 over here, and then there's 2 over here. There are 2 outlying oil springs, but at the moment, I'm not going to be doing anything with them because my intention later on is to show you how to move these things if you do have Land of the Lions DLC, which will be in a future guide. The other thing that I definitely want to mention, this is very important. Where you have oil refineries, let's say in this spot, right? Do yourself a favor. Try to position them in a way to have a trade union. And make sure the trade union is over both of them, or 3, depending on how many you have here. You will thank me for this later. I went ahead and did the exact same thing over here for these 2 oil refineries. So let's go ahead and start out with this. In order to build an oil refinery, which looks something like this, you are going to need a lot of stuff from both the New World and Old World, or just the Old World. The reason why I say both is that you can actually have the timber and the bricks be made in the New World instead of bringing it from the Old World. But in this particular situation, I just brought over a majority of stuff from the Old World to over here. So you're going to need some timber, you're going to need some bricks, steel beams, windows, and reinforced concrete. That's why we were working on those things initially in the Old World to transport it over here for these things to work. Okay? The next thing is that they're going to need 75 obreros to actually man. That is why we actually went ahead and upgraded the settlement to a point that we have a decent amount of obrero workforce, allowing us to build these things. Okay? Before we actually build these, though, let's talk about the small oil harbor. Now, we touched on this in a previous episode with the engineers, the start of the engineers. This is very similar, except the items required to build these things are different. So all you're going to need here is just some timber and some bricks. So go ahead and build that up. But do notice that the train tracks have not actually linked up with this. You're going to actually have to physically do this. It's not like roads that immediately connect. So just go over here, just either copy or pull it from the main screen, and then drag it alongside the road, and it'll auto-connect to them. The basis for electricity and train routes is you want to have parallel tracks that have regular connections at certain intervals so the trains can go in between, and there won't be ever a pop-up that comes over the oil harbor saying you have a parallel track issue. Essentially, if a train is trying to come from this side, but a train is also taking the exact same track on this side, it'll prevent the train coming from here to actually go forward, and thus it'll put a little bit of a time strain on your trains. That's not what you want to see. So always start off with a double track here. You can even go so far as to put a triple, quadruple, anything you really feel will definitely be worthwhile. In this particular situation, I built a town around the train tracks because I thought it would look nice, to be perfectly honest. So you don't have to do this. I just like seeing it this way. But now that we have this thing built, if you were to go all the way over to here, excuse me, if you go over here to electricity, notice that we don't have the oil power plant here. We just have the basis for the oil power plant. So what we should do here is after we've built the small oil harbor, come over here to the oil store. The oil store is very similar, again, to the old world, in which it'll increase the capacity of oil here by 200. So this one by default has 500. And we just add this one be 700, that's 900. So 900 total oil can be stored in here at any given time. Unless we do have a power plant later on here, which comes from Artisas, the chain after Oberas, that's when it starts to diminish at this point, right? So what I would suggest is going ahead and building these. Now we have 900. That's a really good, comfortable level. You can even build more if you so choose, but always, be in blueprint if you want to do that. You can, I don't know, extend it further. You can even put some over here, make it look kind of symmetrical, looking nice, okay? The next thing here is that we're going to actually have to build an oil refinery. So let's go ahead and build this one in the back because it has 3 oil wells to it as opposed to this one having 2. And let's see what happens. So this does cause some pollution, unfortunately, but I want to just mention that over here in this region, while I do think that the attractiveness is a very good thing to maintain, sure, fine, whatever, normally you don't have to worry about it too much. You're not going to be focusing on beautification of these smaller islands. If you do end up having this behemoth, don't even care what happens to these small little islands with their attractiveness. Obviously, make sure it's not like a horribly dirty city. Make sure that it's actually functional and nice because, again, your people are still not going to appreciate a lot of pollution here in Vulgarity, okay? So as you can see, we actually have a train headed towards here, and it's going to head over into this refinery, which is actually producing oil once every 5 seconds. There's currently 9 in there. But now I do also want to build this one up, so we're going to go ahead and do the same. And again, don't worry about your maintenance costs. Obviously, you're going to be making a lot of money from selling some weapons, selling some other goods, so don't really worry about all that. If you choose to upgrade your small oil harbor, which we can't at this point because we don't have enough timber, what I'll do in the interim is actually send... Oh, we do actually have this over here. I'm going to send this ship over there to get some more. Do note that you can always upgrade the oil harbor all the way up to a large. The largest one, which is the Grand Oil Harbor, only is accessible if you have the Bright Harvest DLC, so bear that in mind. And the larger it becomes, the more trains you have access to, and the more storage capacity you have. It is pretty much the oil equivalent of your main harbor area, in which if you upgrade this, you get more storage capacity, except this is only dealing with oil, right? So right now we have 12 oil in here, and that is perfect. That means that a train has actually gone and accumulated the oil that we've brought over from these particular refineries into the main harbor area. And we still have the Memphis that's just big chilling over here. And what I would like to do is wait until there's about 400 oil in here. That would actually justify having a oil tanker go from one region to the next, okay? If you don't have 400, which is the maximum any oil tanker can get of oil at any given time, I would honestly suggest waiting and seeing, is there something going on with the chain, particularly? Like, what is going on? In this particular situation, the train is going to go into this refinery first, get the 13 or 14 oil, and then head over to this one, which has 20. So it's going to be bringing over a decent chunk of oil into the main harbor area. So while this is all doing its thing, I also want to touch on the trade union itself that we built for these guys specifically. Go ahead and build it up, and obviously remember this costs influence to do. There was an item that I did get as far as just a normal event, and it is definitely, oh, that's great. The one heavy weapons factory that I actually did need to work the entire time decided to explode. I just don't care about you. Publish whatever the heck you want. Gonna have to rebuild this once this whole fire is actually done. That's great. Love to see it. So, One item that we did in fact get here was the fine handheld power auger. And this affects clay pits, saltpeter works, sand mine, limestone quarries, all oil wells, bauxite mines, and helium extractors. Plus 40% productivity, minus 20% workforce. This is when optimization starts to become pretty important. Because with increased productivity, it means these guys are going to be a lot faster. And honestly, with a smaller workforce, that's incredible. So let's go ahead and activate this. And when you activate it, they become a little bit brighter when it comes with the blue. So instead of 5 seconds, they're now producing it at 3 seconds. So if we go over here to our production, and we look at the oil, we are producing 28 oil per minute. This is just a little optimization. You don't need a lot with this. Ultimately, in one playthrough that I have with the expert campaign, I have a specialist set, 3 of them, for this trade union, that is allowing these guys to actually produce oil once every second. And you can get them to a second, regardless of why. Like, for example, this one's at 5 seconds because it only has 2 oil wells, and this one's at 3 seconds because it has 3 of these. So, it's not too bad. The fact that it's reducing our workforce requirement is incredible. So, let's just wait. I'm going to fast forward it until the point that we actually have 400 oil here, and then we will reconvene. Okay, so we've let the game run for a little bit of time, and in here we have... Oh my god, no, just... Literally, don't even care anymore. We have 435 oil in here, and what we can do now is set up the oil route. The oil route is not set up the same way as a normal trade route. It has its own little spot, being the oil routes right over here. And it will only show you oil tankers, so don't worry about this. If you're ever curious as to where this particular ship is, either the game would tell you, like, this thing starts to flash, like if you're in the old world, it will kind of start to flash. In our particular situation, it doesn't. But if you look on the map over our island, it actually highlights it with a little white outline, so we'll know where it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to literally click from Fenris, and we can even just go ahead and click this, so it's 400 right there. If you wanted to wait for the goods, which I would recommend doing, it really depends on how much you're using this trade route, of course, this oil route, excuse me. Go ahead and set the wait for goods. That way it'll guarantee you 400 oil at any given time. And then you're going to click on the old world, and we're going to click on Roma. And we're going to unload the goods over there and hit accept. From here, we can go ahead and create a new group, in which case we can call it the... Go over here if it wants to work with me today. That's the big question. The Fen Roma route, which in this particular situation is bringing us oil. So the oil tanker is going to get filled up with oil as it is over here, and it's going to go all the way to Roma now. The thing with oil tankers, again, going based off of the steam ships episode, these things do not have the capability of being upgraded with any particular item. Do note, this is not the same if you actually have mods enabled. There are certain mods that actually enable these ships to actually have greater capacity. I know there's an entire mod dedicated to better steamships and just ships overall. But do know, base game, this is what you're going to be getting. 400 max, and this is all she wrote. Very, very simple ship, very simple route. So, we're going to reconvene when the ship actually is getting close to arriving at Roma, and we're going to see how it plays out. Our oil tanker has made it to the old world, and now it's sailing towards Roma. But until it actually gets there, I wanted to show you guys how powerful the advanced weapon sales are. Because we have 100, and we can definitely sell them. We're not using them for anything else, right? So I actually brought them over to Archie over here. As you can see, the maintenance costs are definitely hitting us pretty hard at this point. We're obviously underneath that mill, which really sucks. But over here, we have 100 of these. So let's go ahead and sell them to the gasbag himself. And oh, look at that. Another cool mill. Easy peasy. Love to see it. And you have an extra clipper, you can just utilize this for wherever you so please. So let's just get back over to here. Let's wait until our ship comes in, and we'll see this this oil reserve spike up by 400. Okie dokie, so the Memphis has arrived. What I did in the meantime is actually build up on the oil stores. So the total in here would actually be 1,700 oil supply, which is fantastic. Now, the ship is obviously going to have a little bit of pathing to get through here, But honestly, this is a nice way of setting it. I kind of like it symmetrical, but obviously with everybody else, it's really different. So it's going to do its little turn, and the ship's stern has to be towards the actual oil harbor for it to deposit it in. So we'll see the 710 skyrocket up to 1110, and at that point, you know you have a stable oil route. Go over here, turn this bad boy on, let it work, because you're bringing in enough oil from the New World to make sure that 2 of these power plants are running, and hell, you can even have more. So let's head on over back to the New World and see how much oil we actually have in reserve over here. And we have 702. That means these guys are constantly working. Okay, that is what you want to see. This is fantastic. This one island can essentially keep Roma running for a long, long time, because remember, we also want to build some tractors. This is going to be fantastic going forward, and what I would recommend at this point, because this actually is doing so well, head on over here, build yourself another oil tanker, and get them going very, very fast, okay? So, in the next episode, we are going to be talking about tractors and how to really set them up. The power behind tractors is just crazy, and that way it actually cuts down on us like increasing the times for a whole bunch of these guys, like increasing the working conditions just to make sure they work faster. That'll be a thing of the past, okay? Because all of these farms will have a tractor to them, and it'll go so much smoother. A lot less farm fields, but maximum efficiency. Hopefully, this was a good little introduction into the oil routes. I think this is like the part of Anno 1800 I really like, apart from beautification, is really optimizing your chains to be better, more powerful, a lot faster, all that good stuff. Oil routes, very important to set up, and you're going to be setting them up to multiple different islands, so understanding the basics behind them is really important to manage. So until next time, please consider like, commenting, subscribing, hitting that bell button, sharing it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. That's what these guides are for. Ask questions. No question is a stupid question. Believe me, I ask a lot of questions on a daily basis. Many people have actually called them stupid, but apart from that, that is me, that is not you. Your questions are valid, my questions are not. So until next time, my friends, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and I'll catch you on the next one, my rantings.